Hey everyone, welcome back to the Honeybird Studio Knitting Podcast. My name is Jenny and I'm coming to you from the Fraser Valley of British Columbia, Canada. You can find me on Instagram and on Ravelry as Honeybird Studio. Today is Monday, September 27th. Monday, September 27th. I'm recording a day late because I did record yesterday, but I had technical issues with my phone cutting out every like 6 minutes or something like that, but I think I got that resolved, so hopefully, fingers crossed, hopefully this video does not cut out. But yeah, so I'm recording on a Monday, and unfortunately there is construction just pretty well across the street and just down a little bit of ways, so there's like big trucks coming up and down the road here, so please forgive the loud noises in the background. I think they're pouring concrete today, so there's big trucks, and this is kind of a main road, so just to let you know, that's where all the noise, that's why it's going to be probably a bit noisy. Normally I record on Sundays, but like I said, I had technical issues yesterday, so I'm re-recording today. So let's see. We are less than a week away from Knit City Mini. I'm super excited about that. I will be going on Saturday and Sunday, so I'm going to be going Saturday to the market, I think both time slots, and Sunday for the morning time slot, and then I also got tickets to the knit night with the grocery girls on Saturday night, so super excited about that. I'm so excited to be going to a fibre event. Like everything got canceled last year, so so it's been a while. I think 2019 was the last time I was at Knit City, so I'm excited to go this year. It's going to be a smaller, event, but I'm still excited to see the vendors and hopefully get to meet some people and make some new friends and stuff like that, so I'm really excited. But on that note, let me know below what fibre event, what's your favorite fibre event you've ever been to, or what's a fibre event that is on your bucket list. For me, I think my bucket list, I think I've got two. My two bucket list yarn events, or fibre events, fibre festivals, are Rhinebeck and I think it's the Edinburgh Yarn Festival, I think is what it's called, or something like that. The one that's in Scotland. Is that Scotland? Yeah. But those are my two bucket list fibre events. So let me know below. Like I said, what's your favorite one you've ever been to, or what's your bucket list, or both? Let me know. I'd be curious to see what other fibre events are out there. If there's anything. I know there's Fibres West that I think takes place. Is it? I'm not sure if it's in California or if it's in Washington. Is it California? It might be. I'm not sure. I don't really follow fibre events that are outside my scope here. I'm usually just I hear about Rhinebeck all the time, and I know that's coming up pretty soon. And the Edinburgh Yarn Festival is another one, or is it? I'm not sure if that's what it's called. It's been a while since, of course, it probably didn't happen last year, but it's been a while since I've heard anyone talk about it. But anyways, that's enough waffling on about that. Let's get into some knitting. So I think what I'll start with is what I'm wearing, because it's a finished object as well. I'll stand up so you can see. So this is another Woodstone cardigan. This one I made a little bit oversized. And of course this black yarn picks up everything, every bit of hair, every bit of fluff. but yeah, so it's got the cable detail down the arms. So both arms, and then on the back it's got the lace and cable detail down the middle. So, and I made it pretty long, because I wanted this to be a little bit oversized. So I winged it. I followed my other pattern, or my notes from my previous one, and I just added more stitches. I cast on more stitches, and I increased a lot more stitches so that it closes at the front, because my other Woodstone cardigan is an open front cardigan. So it just comes to here, but this one I'm able to wrap closed like that. So really pleased with this. Originally I was gonna put pockets on it. I think I still might at some point. The pocket, I've never done pockets before. I've never followed a pattern that had pockets, or I've never gotten far enough for pockets, or I've omitted them, maybe. But I did try and put a pocket on here. Like I tried to do, in my head I had envisioned to do like a diagonal pocket, and I thought that would look cool, or like basically like from here and then down like that, like a diagonal pocket. But when I had it done and I tried on the cardigan, I didn't really like the way it was sitting. It was kind of floppy, so I think what I'll do is maybe go back at some point and make just straight up and down pockets on the sides. I think that would be, I don't know. The nice thing about knitting on, or at least with this yarn, the yarn, did I say what the yarn I'm using? Briggs & Little Heritage, I believe is what it was called. It's kind of like a heavy worsted Aran weight, I guess. Pretty sure I knit this on 5 millimeters, maybe? Or 6 millimeters? Oh, I'd have to check my notes. But yeah, the nice thing about this yarn is like when I put the pocket on and I didn't like it and I took out the pocket, the yarn, like I didn't lose any, or it didn't like stretch out any of my stitches. So like it looks fine. Like I didn't ruin it or anything. So like I said, if I want to, I'll go back and put pockets on it, see if I like the straight up and down pockets, and if not, I'll just take them out again. No big deal. But yeah, so, and this is what I'm going to be wearing to Knit City as well. I think the weather is supposed to be probably like today, where it's not, hopefully it's not pouring rain, but it is like just kind of cloudy with breaks of sun. So like instead of wearing a jacket, I can just wear this woolly cardigan and it should keep me warm. It should keep me warm enough. Keep my temperature regulated, I guess. But yeah, so that is my first finished object. And my next finished object is another garment, which I cast on and cast off within a couple of days, I think. It worked up really quick. I weaved in the ends, but I haven't blocked it yet, so I haven't cut the tails off. But this is like a super cropped t-shirt. And no pattern for this. I just kind of, what I did was I looked at the ranunculus pattern and I heavily modified it. I basically took the gist of the ranunculus and made this. So I wanted a much wider neckline. Like I wanted it to be not quite off the shoulders, but close enough to like just kind of be just barely on the shoulders. And so I looked at the pattern for the ranunculus and saw where the stitches increased to a point where I thought would be appropriate. And I cast on there. So I think it was at some point it gets to 120 stitches. So I cast on 120 stitches, did the collar, and then I just found a stitch pattern in my, I think it was this Japanese knitting Bible, or the Japanese stitch Bible, knit stitch Bible, something like that. But anyways, so I just found a pattern that I liked and I knit the pattern until I got to, I want to say 240 stitches. I figured that seemed about wide enough for me. And then I separated for the sleeves and the body. I kind of guessed, I looked at the numbers for the ranunculus again, like my numbers were off from what the ranunculus had for sleeve separation, so I just kind of did a little bit of math, and it turned out fine. Like I've tried this on and it fits just fine. The yarn that I used is Malabrigo Machida, and I held it double with which is the Drops Alpaca Silk. Drops Alpaca Silk, that's what it is. So I held the two of them double to get this kind of fluffy marled effect. Hopefully that's showing up. So I'm really excited about this. I had just enough yarn basically to make it this size. I have a little bit left over, but I stopped where I did because that's where it fits me, like the crop style. I also did some decreases on on the side. I think I had to decrease like 10 stitches, I think, to get a better fit for the ribbing. And then I went down a needle size on the ribbing and just did, I think it was like 15 or 20 rounds, and then cast it off. And yeah, so it's super cute. I've tried it on top of a dress, and it's really nice. I mean, I pretty well wear dresses year round. In the fall and winter, when it gets colder, I just wear leggings underneath. So it's nice to have some sweaters and crop tops to wear over top of my dresses. Yeah, so I'll put that over there. And now I have 4 more finished objects, all of the same pattern. So I am currently test knitting for Emily of the High Fibre Knits podcast, she's got a podcast called High Fibre Knits, and I think that's also her Instagram handle. And so she put out a testing call for her Winemaker's Harvest hat, and I jumped at the opportunity and was chosen as a test knitter. So the first one I made is this one, and I've added a pom-pom on it. I'm still not like 100% sold on the pom-pom, so I haven't like completely woven it in, or like I haven't completely sewed it down. It's just the only pom-pom that I have. The only color that I have right now. But yeah, so this is made out of Estelle Llama Chunky, I think, or Chunky Llama. Chunky Llama. I think it's Llama Chunky. But yeah, so it's a really cute hat. Let's see if I can actually get it on this way. So it's got like it's kind of a triple brim, I guess. So it's like super, super cozy, super warm on your ears, which I love. I love hats that have like either a folded brim or a triple folded brim, or I guess a double folded brim. It's like 3, this one's like, yeah. So it's really, really, it was such an easy pattern to memorize. And I enjoyed it so much that I'm on my 7th one now. I've made 6 and I gave 2 away already. I forgot to take pictures of them, but that's okay. I'll update my Ravelry with these ones. But yeah, so it's a really nice fitting hat. I really like it. The next one I made, I wanted to use up some yarn from Stash, and I wanted to see if it would work up in an Aran weight. So this, I believe, I know it's a Cascade Aran yarn, and I can't remember the name of the yarn, if it's like Color Splash or maybe it's just called Aran Splash, but it's got like, it not gradiates, but it kind of changes different purples in here, just barely. You can kind of see that there. It's kind of like big chunks of color change. But yeah, so this one is, I don't remember the colorway or the color number of it, but it's a nice purple. This one fits like, and this one, even though the weight or the yarn that I used is a little bit thinner, it still fits perfectly. Like it still fits snugly on my head. It doesn't feel like it's gonna fall off. It feels like it's gonna be a really great, it's just a great fit. Like I love the length of this too. Like it's not too long and it's not too like tight on my head, which I really like in a hat. So that's that one. And then I decided to order yarn that was the yarn that she used in hers, which is the Barocco Vintage Chunky. Oh, my hair. And so I ordered it in 2 different colors. So I got, oh, I don't remember the colorway numbers or the colorway names, but I got this one in gray. And it worked, like it works up even better in the yarn that Emily used in the pattern for sure. I definitely find that this one seems to fit the best. I feel like it's definitely got the best feel to it. It's perfect. Like the pattern was designed in this yarn, so of course it's like perfect. So that's the gray one. And then this is the pink one. This one's my favorite. This one's definitely going to be part of my wardrobe. Definitely a staple for sure. And I feel like, again, like because of the size of the hat or like the length of the hat, I feel like it doesn't even need a pom-pom. Normally I'm a pom-pom person, I don't know what it is. I feel, it's almost like I feel naked without having something up, like a pom-pom. I'm pretty sure like all of my hats have pom-poms on them, but this one I feel like doesn't need it. Like it looks like it's just perfect the way that it is. So I'm really excited. I need to take pictures so I can update my Ravelry with some, or make a Ravelry page with these hats, because that's, got to do that. If I'm test knitting, I want to make sure I get some good pattern, or some good pictures and some good notes out there, so other people that want to knit the pattern will have that information. Yeah, now I feel, my head feels cold after putting all those hats on. Like, now I can feel how the ambient temperature in this room is pretty cold. For some reason, this room is never really like a moderate temperature. It's either really cold in this room or it's like really hot in this room. And I think it's because like in the summer, or like when the sun's out, the sun hits this, like the sun faces this room all day from sunrise to sunset. And so it's just totally heated up. And then in the winter time, this room is also above the garage, and I feel like, I don't know, maybe this room just gets a little bit drafty, but it seems to be the coldest room in the house. But anyways, that was a tangent. Let's move on to works in progress. Yeah, so I'm done with my whips, or sorry, I'm done with my finished objects, so now let's move on to whips. On the topic of the Winemaker's Harvest hat, I have another one that I'm making currently. I just did the brim fold, so it's not a whole lot to look at right now, but I just did the brim fold, so it'll be, it's not gonna work here. But anyways, so I've got a little bit of work done on this. I would say I guess I'm about like just almost halfway done. The yarn that I'm using is leftover yarn that I had from a previous project. This is Lion Brand Pound of Love, and I should have enough. Yeah, I'll definitely have enough to finish the hat. But yeah, so I have the pattern memorized. I don't even have to look at the pattern anymore. The only place that I probably might have to look at the pattern is for the decreases, but once I get the first set of decreases done, it's very intuitive to do the following decreases. So like this pattern in general is just a very intuitive pattern. I would definitely recommend it. It's not released yet, but I believe Emily will be releasing it in October. I think the test knit deadline was October 7th or 8th, so I'm sure it'll probably come out sometime after that. So be on the lookout for that. I'll make sure that I link it below as well, or I'll link to Emily below, so you can follow her, so you can keep updated on the progress of this pattern, or like when it'll be released. But yeah, and it's just living in one of my project bags that I made a long time ago, or I say a long time ago, probably like maybe a couple years ago. It's got like little birds on it, little birds and trees. I think before I get into this one, I will touch on a couple of projects I'm making for other people. The first one is this bean, I think it's called Bean and Olive, and this is by Andrea Mowry. Let's see, get these tails out of the way. So this was supposed to be the 1 to 2 year old size. Oh, I should probably start by saying, like, I think the pattern is a DK weight pattern, but I'm using worsted weight. So I figured what I'd do is do the appropriate size, but just, modify it a little bit. Because, little kids, they grow up so fast. Like, they grow. So I figured if I made a slightly bigger size, then it'll give my niece time to grow into it, or time to be able to wear it. But somehow I ended up with, I think, 20 or 40 more stitches than I was supposed to have. And I don't know how I did that. I'm sure I followed the correct, I'm sure I followed the correct increases, but I'm obviously there's nothing wrong with the pattern. I most likely just read the wrong line and was like, oh yeah, that's it. Increase every X amount of stitches, and then off I went. And because this is a worsted weight, I also omitted the repeated color chart down here because the yoke depth was already deep enough, and I didn't want to, yeah. So anyways, the yarn that I'm using is Red Heart Super Saver, and is the black, and then I think it's Craft Smart Value is the mustard yellow, or like kind of like the goldy yellow. In hindsight, I should have gone up a needle size for the color work. It is kind of bunching. I'm still relatively, I wouldn't say I'm new to color work, but I'm still like learning my ability with color work in the sense of like when I need to go up a needle size and when I don't need to go up a needle size, because it seems to depend on the yarn a lot, which I'll show in my next project. But anyways, so this is as far as I've gotten. I think I've got maybe another inch for the body. I haven't measured it yet, maybe another inch or two, and then I can do the ribbing, cast it off, and then pick up for the sleeves. So yeah, super cute. Did I mention Being an Olive by Andrea Mowry? Yeah, so that's that. So this is for my youngest niece, or technically my great niece. Oh yeah, and I gotta show the little basket I got for this. It's living in a little owl basket that I got from my local superstore. I haven't taken the tag off, but it was on clearance for $5, and I thought, oh, this would be a great basket, a great addition to my many baskets that I have around my place of knitting, with knitting projects in them. So the next project I got in here is another Bean and Olive, and this one's for another one of my nieces. This one's one of my older nieces, and I think I chose the 8. Yeah, I chose the biggest size, so the 8 to 10. So this is, oops, I got some yarn in the way. So this is, this was supposed to be the 8 to 10-year-old size, right? And again, somehow I ended up with 40 extra stitches by the time I got to, I think, this part, or maybe it was by the hearts, I don't know, but somehow I ended up with a perfect amount of stitches, more than I needed, and like the pattern just worked out. Like I don't know, I didn't have to fudge anything, it just, so again, I don't know, I must have misread the pattern at some point and ended up with more stitches. But yeah, so the yarn that I'm using is Loops and Threads Soft and Shiny, and you might recognize this yarn because I think the last time I podcasted, it was in a crocheted blanket, the start of a crocheted blanket, but I quickly realized I wasn't going to have enough yarn, and Michaels didn't have any more of these colors, and so I thought, well, I probably have enough to make a sweater, because the blanket, yeah, the blanket was really wide, much wider than I anticipated. I chained too many stitches, but that's okay. So I figured I'd just repurpose the yarn into a sweater. So yeah, it's gonna be bigger than it's supposed to be, but again, kids grow so fast, or like they can grow into it. Oh, I'm gonna lose some stitches here. But yeah, the color work on this one, I didn't go down a needle size, but this yarn is more, it's somewhere in between a DK and a worsted, I feel like. Or it's a light worsted, and I feel like it's not puckering as much. Like it feels like the color work is pretty drapey. Like I feel like it's not stiff, unlike the other one I feel like is a lot more stiff. I even, like, yeah, I knit this on a 4.5mm needle, and the other one I'm knitting on a 5mm needle, so I don't know, maybe I should have gone up even more, maybe a 5.5 or a 6, but yeah, so these are coming along nicely. These are, I think they're going to be Christmas gifts, so I've got some time to get them done. Yeah, and this is just living in a book bag that I got from like Chapters or Indigo or something a number of years ago. Just a nice canvas bag. The next project I'm working on is another project for someone else. This one is for my sister, my younger sister. And I am making her the Simple Hug Cardi by Cozy Up Knits. And I'm making the smallest version. So this is as far as I've gotten so far. I tried it on, and my sister is taller than me by a couple of inches, and in hindsight, I probably should have knitted a little bit longer, but I think it'll be okay. I think she'll be okay with the I think like with the length of this, because I think it'll just be like an around the house kind of cardigan. So I finished the body. I seamed up the shoulders this morning, and so all that's left to do is picking up stitches around the collar and knitting the collar, and then knitting the sleeves, which I think I'm going to make. I think the pattern it's short sleeves, or like you pick up the stitches and you just go straight into ribbing or something like that. Maybe, I'm not sure. I'd have to look at the pattern again, but in the pattern it's short sleeves. So the one that I knit for my niece last time on the last podcast, I did long sleeves, but yeah, this one I'm going to do short sleeves. The yarn that I'm using is Lion Brand Pound of Love. Again, this is I had bought two big balls of this. It comes in like, oh, come here. So it comes in like this big, what is this, a 400 gram ball? Somewhere on here. 454 grams. So it's like just this big old ball of yarn. I'm going to have a lot left over, so I'll probably be making more hats for people for Christmas. But yeah, so I'm excited to have this done. Hopefully gonna have it done soon. A couple of podcasts ago, I showed a Felix pullover that I made out of the same yarn that I was making for my younger sister, and I finally got around to weaving in the ends, and I gave it to her yesterday, and she put it on, and it looked perfect on her. It was the perfect length, the perfect size, and so hopefully she'll get a lot of wear out of that. I told her it's acrylic yarn, so don't be afraid to throw it into the washer and dryer. I mean, yeah, I have a couple of sweaters that I've made out of acrylic yarns, and I've thrown them in the washer and dryer, and they seem to be doing okay. So I told her she doesn't have to be like super gentle with it. Like it's not 100% wool. It won't felt. So, but yeah, so those are all the projects that I'm making for other people. And then now is this my last whip? Yeah, this is my last whip. So it's living in a new project bag that I sewed. I've had this fabric for years, and I had the bags mostly sewn up. Like I had the flat parts sewn. I just had to like fold the bags and sew them and box the corners and stuff. So I finally did that. I finally got my sewing mojo back, so I got a bit of sewing done. But anyways, living in here. Oh yeah, and I had enough fabric left over that I made a little notions pouch as well. So this is holding, I think it's my cable needle. Yeah, my cable needle's in there. So first I'll talk about the yarn. The yarn that I'm using is this really beautiful like teal. It's kind of got like a heathered look to it. It's really pretty. So this is Briggs & Little. So it's this yarn here. Briggs & Little Sport. It's a 1-ply, 100% pure wool, 113 grams for, 430 yards. So that's what it looks like in the skein. So I went to my local yarn shop downtown here and bought enough to make a cardigan. And this yarn is pretty budget friendly. I think it's $7 a skein. And so I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to make this cardigan for under $50. I think it's about $50 maybe after taxes. But this is going to be a bottom-up cardigan. There's no pattern. Like, I'm not following a pattern for this in the sense that, like, I'm not following a written pattern. I had done a swatch in this yarn for another sweater that I made. So I already knew how many stitches per inch that I had. And so I just kind of did the math and figured out how wide I wanted my cardigan to be. It's picking up like all the little pieces of fluff. But yeah, so this is knit from the bottom up. Because now that I know how to make bottom up cardigans, I figured why not give it a try. So this is the stitch pattern that's going down the middle. So it's got a lot of cables, and a little bit of lace in the middle. This again is a stitch that I picked up from the Japanese knitting stitch Bible. And so I decided to do, I think it's like a double seed stitch on the sides, and then I've got this like cable running along, like zigzagging here with a little bobble sort of thing, not really sticking out. Bobbles are kind of, what's the word? Yeah, you kind of have to perk them up to get them to sit properly sometimes. But yeah, so and then it's followed by, I modified this cable because it was in the Knit Stitch Bible. It's originally like with this O cable, but I thought, well, I just finished this cardigan with that cable, so I just modified it to look like that. And then it's got this twisted knit cable here, and this kind of like a leaf pattern. It's kind of hard to see actually, but it's kind of like climbing leaves. And the whole time I've been knitting on this, I keep thinking of a name that I'm going to call it. I'm not going to be like knitting or writing this up as a pattern to be released. This is just a personal project for me. But the name that I kept coming up with was, I think, what was it? Bramble and Ivy, or Ivy and Bramble, because it just reminds me of like climbing ivy and bramble. I don't know, just what came to mind. I'm also doing something new to me that I've never done. Like, I've only made a couple of cardigans. And every cardigan that I've made, I've done in a, I don't know what it's called, but like you pick up and you knit for the collar stitches. So like these, like you pick up all the way around the collar and then you knit all the way around to make the collar. But on this one, I thought, I've seen this on other patterns and I'm not 100% sure how it works, but in my head, I'm kind of figuring it out as I go. But I'm doing the collar like in line with my work, I guess. So it's already applied basically. So, and I've just got this cable running along the side here, along the edge, I should say, and then a little bit of ribbing, and then it goes into the double seed stitch. And I've done that on both sides. So I think I kind of drew it out, like I doodled it out the way I think it works. And so we'll find out, because I think when I separate for the front and back, I think what you do, in my head, I'm thinking you knit this part longer, and then you knit it longer, and then you Kitchener stitch or like 3 needle bind off the two collars together, and then you seam the back side of it. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure, but if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, then I'll have to do some more investigating, some more research. But yeah, so this project has gotten a lot of my attention. Like, I cast it on not even a week ago, and I sat down or maybe it was about a week ago now, and I sat down and I sit in front of my fireplace every morning, and I crank out a couple of rows on this. So I still got like maybe 10 or 12 more inches to go before I separate for the front and back. So it's gonna be a long project. I think this is the project I might bring with me to Knit City for the knit night, because I'm at the point now where I've got the pattern memorized. It's mostly mindless. The only part that I kind of have to look back on my notes is the ivy that's growing up the middle. The ivy that's knit in the middle. But yeah. So I've been fairly, I say fairly monogamous. I've been focused more on fewer projects, and a lot of them are garments and a hat. I have a lot of more whips at home, but I've put a lot of them to the side. I'm just focusing on the garments now, because I think the garments are what are giving me the most joy. I have socks. I have like a ripple bralette. I have another hat. It's just, they're not really grabbing my attention, and so this is what I'm sticking to. And then also, like I mentioned, I've got my sewing mojo back, so I've been sewing a lot more. Sorry, I keep playing with my hair. So I've been sewing a lot more, and yeah, so I should say that's the end of the knitting content. So if you were just here for the knitting, thanks so much, and I will see you next time. But if you're interested to see what I've been sewing, I will show that off right now. So I've got quite a stack of project bags here. But yeah, first I had a little bit more of that mermaid fabric left over. Whoops. And so I made this little box corner notions pouch. So it's got little fishies on the inside. Can't really see. The light is blowing it out. But yeah, so made that little mermaid pouch. And yes. And then I was going through my fabric, and I had a lot of like smaller, like not quantities, but smaller cuts of fabric that I could make. Like I had enough to make one pouch, or sorry, one, like, this is like a small like sock size or hat size, like a small project size bag. So it's got a box bottom, this blue fabric on the inside, and it's got and I had enough to make a little matching notions pouch, so it's got the same blue fabric on the inside. But yeah, it fits one skein comfortably. So yeah, like socks or a hat. I use a lot of my I use lots of project bags, all my project bags. But I can sometimes, like, I have a shawl in a small bag like this, that's a 2 skein shawl, and that, like, it fits just enough. So that's that one. I love this fabric. It's so vibrant. Such a nice fabric. I'm sure I got it, like, a lot of this fabric is from, like, years ago. This fabric I got at the same time as that one. So this one's got feathers on it. And it's got the same blue inside. And the thing about this one is, I think I'm not a pro. I'm not like extremely experienced in in sewing. And so I think my highest level of knowledge or my highest skill of sewing is high school. I took sewing in high school, and that's a whole other story. I passed the class, but just barely. My final project, yeah, that was a disaster. So I had other things to worry about. But anyways, so sometimes with the bags when I'm sewing them, sometimes the top stitching here, I don't know, I guess maybe I just get carried away sometimes, or I just forget to, like, I always iron it, but sometimes I forget to, like, really stretch it out, like, and, like, get it as flat as possible when I'm sewing the top stitching. And so the zipper, this one on particular, the zipper sometimes gets caught because the top stitching on the inside is too close. I don't know. Yeah, that probably won't make sense. If you know, you know. But anyways, so it's got a matching zipper pouch. Super cute. So I'm really excited about that. I'm like, when I first started sewing, like when I wouldn't even say I started taking sewing seriously, but when I got my personal and my own sewing machine, like 10 years ago, yeah, it had to have been 10 years ago, the only thing I could sew, well, my grandma showed me how to do quilting, like how to cut squares and rectangles and sew them together to make patchwork kind of, or not patchwork, but like, you know, quilting kind of stuff, but not much else. So I could make a quilt top, probably, if I had the patience. But anyways, I really wanted to make little like coin purses, and so I just looked up a YouTube tutorial, like this would have been like 10 years ago, of how to do zippers. Like how do you, I couldn't even wrap my mind around how you would sew a zipper in, but once I figured out how to sew a zipper in, sewing these little coin purses and these project bags is super, like, it seems so straightforward to me. Like, I've got my measurements all written up on a board over here. So like I have like my main fabric, my lining fabric, and then other notions and stuff that I need, and what the measurements of each size are. And it's basically like you just cut out rectangles you put interfacing on them, you sew the zipper in, and then you know, sandwich them a certain way, sew around, leave a little opening in it, and then you flip the whole thing inside out, and then you sew the bottom closed. Like, I guess that I can show you here. So on the inside, so you leave like a little, like on your lining fabric, you would leave a little hole here. So you can pull the, like, cause it'll be inside out when you sew it, and then you pull it outside in or the right side out kind of thing. And then you just sew the little, like you just sew the hole closed like that. I'm sure there's probably a prettier way of doing it, but I'm not like super fussed. I'm no professional. I still consider myself like a amateur sewist or novice sewist. I can sew straight lines. I don't even know what half the functions on my sewing machine do. It's not even my sewing machine. I sold my sewing machine for like $20. It was a really, really old Singer sewing machine that didn't have very many functions. I think it just had a straight stitch. And so now I've got my sister's sewing machine because she doesn't use it. And it's got a whole bunch of different options. I know how to wind the bobbin. I know how to thread the needle. Yeah. I'm scared to play with any of the other settings because I don't, what's the settings that it's on now are what work, like it works for me, and I don't want to mess up with it. I don't want to mess it up. Anyways, so the next bag I sewed is this coffee bag. So I had this fabric, I think was given to me by my grandparents. Or no, like this fabric on the inside was from my grandparents. And then the coffee fabric on the outside was from one of my aunts. Because I wouldn't say I'm addicted to coffee. I did quit coffee for 5 years at one point, but I do like coffee. Like I'm not like crazy, but I guess I used to be a little bit. Yeah. Anyways, I keep going off on tangents. So she bought me a bunch of coffee fabric, and there was just enough of this fabric to make a small project bag. So I didn't have enough left over to make a notions pouch, unfortunately. But I found some little bits of fabric, enough of this floral fabric to make a little notions pouch. I did have project bags made out of this, but I gave them away to one of my other local yarn shops before they closed. I used to sell, well, not really used to sell. I used to basically donate my project bags to, like, when they would do prizes and stuff, or giveaways and stuff. So I used to give them my project bags to do prizes and stuff. But yeah, that yarn shop is closed now, which is pretty sad. But thankfully there's another yarn shop that's just downtown here. And then this is another one. So this one matches this bag. And I've got more fabric sitting on my ironing board there, waiting to be sewn up into medium-sized project bags. Let's see the next one. So I've got more of these. So the way that I work the way that I figured out how to make my bags, or like make the most out of my fabric. So I've got one large bag, and then one medium bag, and two small bags here. And then I have enough left over to make a couple of these notions pouches. So I figured out of 1 meter of fabric, I'm 1 meter of main fabric, 1 meter of lining fabric, and then I think it's 2 meters of interfacing. I can get these 4 bags, plus I think it's about 4, yeah, it's gotta be 4 of these little notions pouches. So yeah, it took me a while to figure out. Like, I had written out on a graph paper, or I drew up on a graph paper like how many inches wide my meter of fabric was and how many inches long my meter of fabric was, and then I cut out each rectangle of like the size of each project bag that I needed, and I just rearranged it on a grid until I came up with the way to utilize the most of my fabric with little waste. So there's like my waste basket for fabric is mostly just little tiny strips. So I use a lot, the majority of a meter of fabric to get 4 bags and 4 pouches. But yeah, and so I bought some fabric. I know I don't need more fabric because I still have lots to go through, but I couldn't resist this like kind of celestial, astrological, space themed fabric, and like the blue and the purple are like right up my alley. And so I bought a meter of that fabric, and I made 4 project bags, and I got this really fun hot pink for the lining. I thought that was a really nice like pop of color. Originally I was going to go with like this color for the lining, but I thought that would be too dark, so I went with hot pink. So I've got 4 bags, a large, a medium, and 2 small ones. I have a lot of fun sewing these bags. I don't sell them. I just think I don't want to turn this hobby into a business kind of thing. So I just make them for fun. And then I've got, of course, got these little notions pouches, and it's got the hot pink lining on the inside too. So yeah. But yeah, so I don't plan on selling these, but I do want to use them as prizes for my make-along. So what I'm gonna do is this. Oh, sorry if you can hear my stomach growling. It's almost lunchtime, so. But yeah, so I'm gonna do this project bag, and this notions pouch is gonna be a prize for my make-along. So speaking of that, that is the 6 from Stash make-along, and that's hosted over in my Ravelry group, which will be linked below. And this will be for the grand prize that I'll be drawing in January. So the way it works is to enter into the make-along, you have to make something, either crochet or knit something from using yarn from your stash that you acquired previous to this year. And then for every project that you enter, you just say which number of project it is. So if you've entered 1, or if it's your first one, you say project number 1. If it's your second one, say project number 2, and so on. And for every 6 projects that you make out of stash yarn, it'll enter you into the grand prize. So this will be part of the grand prize. I still want to, I might go through my stash and see if there's like some yarn. I know there's some yarn that I can certainly send off with this for sure. So hope maybe by the next time I'll have that whole package figured out. But yeah, so this will be part of the grand prize for the 6 from Stash make along. So if you want to join in that, go ahead and check out my Ravelry group. And then I'll probably be setting aside some of these as well as prizes for future make-alongs or knit-alongs. So yeah, I'm super excited about that. I think that's it. Yeah. That's, I think I've covered everything. All the knitting, all the sewing. Yeah, so if you've made it this far, thanks for sticking around and seeing what I've been up to. And just to recap the question I had earlier in the episode, let me know below what your favorite yarn festival, or what your favorite fiber festival is, or has been, or like which is your favorite one that you've ever been to, and or what's your bucket list yarn festival, or sorry, fiber festival. Yeah, so yeah, let me know below. I'd love to see like all the various different fiber festivals or fiber events that go on around the world. Like, it's always cool to see like other places and what kind of events that they run and stuff like that. Yeah, so that's about it. Next time I see you will be after Knit City Mini, so I'm sure I'll have lots to show off. I do plan, I always set aside a budget earlier, I found out that Knit City was happening a couple months ago, so I had to fudge my budget a little bit to make sure that I have enough for Knit City. But yeah, so I have a budget set aside. I have a list of things that I want to get from Knit City Mini. I'm going in with a purpose this time, because the last couple of years that I've gone to Knit City, I just kind of bought whatever appealed to me. Like, I didn't have a project in mind. I just said, oh, that yarn is pretty, I want it. That yarn is pretty, I want that. But I only ever bought single skeins of yarn. So it's like I can either make socks or a hat or mittens or gloves, or like a 1 skein shawl. But it's like I like doing bigger projects now, and so my plan is to go in and get at least 1 or 2 sweaters quantities of a yarn, and I'm definitely going to pick up a project bag or 2, and then some notions, because I looked at the vendors list, and I've got my list of all the vendors that I'm going to hit up So I've got 2 days to do it. I've got Saturday and Sunday. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. But anyways, that's enough chit chat about that. I guess I will see you guys again in a couple of weeks. And yeah, until then, happy knitting.